What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. I want to address Dennis Sperling. Dennis Sperling. He seems to be one of the, probably, I would say, one of the main FBA social media commentators. He went from being red pill manosphere to FBA. That's his thing, right? That's what he's moved over to, right? And so one of the main issues that FBA says they need is delineation, because they're tired of the African people, immigrants, coming to America and pretending to be African Americans, right? So this is their gripe. And they're saying that they're tethering themselves to the African American culture. Okay? Now at the same time, they want you to recognize that African Americans are the predominant, most popular culture on the planet. But then they complain that African people who historically look up to African Americans, because we have been in the media the longest, right? And we accomplished a lot of things that would inspire another African person, right? And would also inspire another African person who see another African person like themselves doing something. Of course, they would want to emulate that. That, right, is proof that your culture is popular. So, simultaneously, FBA has a problem with African people, quote unquote, pretending to be African Americans in America. Now, the issue with that is African people cannot cosplay other African people. It's impossible because we're African, right? No matter how much you hate yourself, African people cannot cosplay African people, because if that's the case, then when an African American puts on a dashiki, that African American is cosplaying African culture. When an African American puts on a kufu on his head, he's cosplaying African culture. When an African American cooks black-eyed peas, he is cosplaying African culture. When a black American jumps a broom after he gets married, he is cosplaying African culture. When a black American dances and shakes that black American ass, he is cosplaying African culture. If we were to use the same definition, but we're not. We're simply practicing African American culture, which is African culture over here. Now, Dennis Sperling is supposed to be a lawyer, so I'm supposed to assume that he's highly intelligent. So what that tells me is he knows he's wrong, but because he has personal gripes in his own personal life, he likes to project that onto society. He married a Dominican woman, so therefore he's making a non-FBA child. So is this child non-FBA? His child would be non-FBA, but he has a problem with non-FBA, right? Listen, African people, when they come to America and they assimilate within black culture, it's because they live with us. And he's supposed to be from Virginia, so he knows how things operate here in this area, which he say he's from, right? So that means his observational skills are terrible, all right? Because if a black person, this is common sense, guys, if a black person comes to a black community and is raised with black people, they tend to act like the people they raised with. Just like we got those white people who are raised in the black community, they tend to act because they participate in the culture of the dominant community, which is, in fact, those black people they live with. Therefore, they're going to act like that, right? So you can't have, at the same time, an African come into the African American community and not participating in the African American culture. Had they done that, you FBA would say, oh, you guys want to separate. You guys don't want to assimilate into the culture. You guys don't want to be a part of the African American culture. You come here and you make your own communities and you don't participate in African American culture. That's what you would say. But when they do participate in African American culture, now you're saying, oh, you're cosplaying African Americans. You're trying to be like African Americans. You're trying to steal African American culture. Which one is it? Damned if you do, damned if you don't. You see, FBA has set up a trap to where Africans can do no right no matter what they do, because it's a cult. And Dennis Sperling is one of the people who are perpetuating the cult, using his vocabulary to trick uneducated and unaware people to believe that what he's saying is right and righteous. Dennis Sperling wants to justify his delineation because of his own personal experiences, and he wants to have an army of delineators to go with him. He's also grifting and making money off of it, right? Because it's just his way of grifting. But in fact, FBA, they want to tether themselves to white supremacy, white systems, white nations, white concepts of social cohesion. You see, FBA wants to assimilate into whiteness, right? While we have our brothers and sisters trying to assimilate into our blackness. They're black, they're assimilating to our blackness. You see, people like Dennis Sperling, they're trying to perpetuate this thing called flat blackness, right? They're trying to make being black and being unified and being similar to other black people, they're trying to make that a derogatory thing. They're trying to come up with this. If you hear any black person say flat blackness, right, just know that is their reasoning. I hear a couple other social media people repeating that flat blackness. Let me ask you a question. Anybody, is there anything flat about being black? Pick any group of black people on this planet. Show me the flatness of it. Black people are the most diverse group of people on the planet. It's impossible to be flat black. There's no such thing as flat black. The only thing flat are white people and their asses. That's the only thing flat. All right? There's nothing flat about blackness. There's nothing flat about being African. There's nothing generic about being African. There's no such thing as a generic African, in which FBA is trying to push to say, hey, we special African American Negroes need to make sure we stay special, and we don't want to get mixed up with those Africans, those plain regular Africans, those vanilla Africans. When in fact, there's no such thing as a plain vanilla African. You've never seen it, you've never heard of it. Now, another thing, FBA, the ones that have a couple brain cells to put together sentences, right? They like to push the narrative that African people want to steal our reparations. Nowhere in human African black ass history has an African wanted to steal African Americans' reparations. Nowhere in black ass history has a Caribbean wanted to steal African American reparations. There are no videos, because if you notice, FBA, they don't prove anything they say. They pretend they're offended about shit that never happened. They made up Akata. The first time you heard the word Akata, an African American said it. You ain't never heard an African say it. You ain't never heard a Nigerian call you Akata. You have never heard it, but yet they've manufactured it and made themselves pissed off about it so they can be offended about something. They need to be offended about it. That's how it works, right? You've never found any Caribbean or African say they want African American reparations. What you may have heard them say is they want also reparations because just like us, they were enslaved and colonized. I understand FBA comprehension and understanding of history makes it so they believe that African Americans are the only group of Africans that were enslaved and went through anything. I understand that the FBA don't understand that it was the British and European countries and corporations that enslaved us, not the entity that we've created called America. That America is the amalgamation of those entities, those corporations that decided to say they didn't want to pay taxes to the crown for slavery, so they decided to incorporate it and do it themselves here and create a constitution to fight against their own people in order to keep us as slaves and keep all the profit. That is the truth, right? So since they don't understand history, they think that they're the only ones who was enslaved. Not understanding that Caribbeans, that most FBA are from the Caribbean. Because all of us came from the Caribbean. Because there was an American slave trade that happened after the Atlantic slave trade, where we were transported from plantation to plantations, which were corporately owned by rich-ass Europeans who would come here, tend to their slaves, take all the profit to Europe, right, and make a ton of money, right? So when they hear Caribbeans say they want reparations, when they hear Africans say they want reparations, because they can't comprehend history, they don't know anything, They think that Africans want their reparations, right? They don't even want to acknowledge that colonization and slavery are the same thing. It's just this one had to take a cab ride to a different location. They don't understand it. We are fighting ignorance. And people like Dennis Sperling, who is supposed to be educated, by the way, all right? He is making money off the ignorance of others. And he is spewing mis and disinformation. And that's the problem with FBA and people like Dennis Sperling, who know they can grift off uneducated African Americans who don't know their history, don't know the complexity of the transatlantic slave trade, the American slave trade, human migration, don't know the story of their own people. You, the Caribbean and the South American, you all come from the same place. Your root is the same root. You are the same people. Your family, your race supersedes any nationality or ethnicity placed upon you by your enslavers. Your root, your race is more important, should be more significant than you, than the language of your enslavers, English and Spanish and French. So yeah, Dennis Sperling and those FBA are xenophobic, hateful, ethno-nationalists who tether to white supremacy, tether towards the institutions of white supremacy, right? Because they are more comfortable there. And me as a Pan-African, I'm more tethered to my people, my African people, the future of the planet. So you can go with them or you can go with us. You have a choice. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think in the comment sections. Afro Think Tank, learn something, teach them. I'm out.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such an extent that you bleach? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate, you should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
Free Sudan, boycott diamonds and gold. Free Sudan, boycott diamonds and gold. We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan.
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.